Hotep, it's your brother Beniti Ray, aka Brother Michael back. To talk to you, what I want to talk about in this session here is mantra magic, mantras slash chanting. This is an effective form of magic, especially personally for me. It's a very, very effective form of magic when one is driving the intent or infusing the energy of the mantra with the intent of what they're trying to accomplish or utilize. Now, the mantra system, that word actually, and we'll get into that. What are mantras? We'll start with that. Is goes back and is something practiced ritualistically in the Dravidian or the Hindu culture, the Hindu pantheon, and the various archetype energies of the various Hindu deities or gods, and the representations of the archetype energies that they activate when utilizing these mantras, is very commonly practiced in the Dravidian or the Hindu culture. When one is doing these mantras or chants, when one builds up a rhythmic vibration, and there's several steps that goes behind performing mantras correctly. There's the vibration, the tone, and the frequency and rhythm of the mantra that's being chanted. There's the visualization of what you are setting out to accomplish with what the mantra is focused on, and then visualizing or meditating on the specific outcome that you're trying to obtain. Now, this is all, when done correctly, you can't think about these things individually. It's kind of like when you get into the rhythm of it, especially with the flow and rhythm of the mantra, you will naturally kind of simultaneously do these things without really, best way I can describe it, for lack of a better word, without having to focus individually on those steps, which would take away from the energy that you're infusing the mantra with. But let's start with some basics, just to give, if you're not familiar in depth with what mantras are and mantra magic. There's also, we'll get into some of that. There's also black magic mantras, which are when you summon certain energies by way of these mantras to specifically attack certain problems, to get things in favor of your will. But there's a whole nother mental focus and mental intent behind those spiritual mantras. So I want to take away, again, dispel the myths and the spookism. Again, when dealing with mantra magic, you're not going to chant something and fix it right on the spot. Sometimes the results are immediate. Sometimes it needs to be done several times, because sometimes the first or second time go around, the correct energy, which is the energy from your subconscious mind, and your mental energy that you are infusing the mantra with, sometimes it needs added or extra energy. In some cases, it might need to be done several times or consistently. But first, let's get into some of the basics. What are mantras? A good book that I would recommend, information that I'm going to take some excerpts tonight. Excellent book. Author's name is Bal Cadman, and it's Vashkarian Magic. Learn the dark mantras of subjugation. This is going to deal a little bit more of the black magic mantras, but again, this process, this system can be applied to mantras in general. Now, this would tie into the aspect, if you go back to one of the earlier classes I did, when I talked about invoking and evoking the spirits. You are invoking the spiritual energy of these forces when you're doing these mantras. So I want to be clear on that. Specifically now, to give you an example, when dealing with the Hindu pantheon, for an example. Now, this can be done with the Egyptian deities. This can be done with the Orishi. This can be done in any particular culture you want. It's irrelevant. You can create your own mantras. Just when you're creating your own mantras, make sure you think out the meaning. For an example, if you were doing it, we're going to focus specifically in this class on the Dravidian or the Hindu pantheon. But if you were using, say, the Egyptian pantheon and you wanted to focus on, let's say, a healing aspect, you can activate the energy of Kansu. So you can create your own mantra or chant incorporating Kansu's name in that chant. It could be anything, calling upon him for healing, calling upon him to remove any negative energy. It's a masculine energy force. You can, if you want to connect to the warrior spirit, you can create your own mantra or chant dealing with the deity Shango in the Orishi pantheon. One specific archetype energy or deity that I'm specifically working with now in the Hindu pantheon that is extremely powerful. If you are, some might be familiar, some might not, with the deity Kali Ma. Kali Ma is a very powerful. It represents the most potent and powerful feminine energy, the divine mother goddess. When you see the image of Kali Ma, she is depicted with her tongue sticking out. Let me show you what the energies represent. Actually, let me pull one of the images so you can see it. Just to show. So, all right. So, see that image. Just to go over some of the representations of the image, you will see the tongue sticking out with blood on it. It could when one doesn't understand it, it could come off as kind of morbid. You see her holding the head of an individual. You see blood on the knife. You see trampling upon an individual. You see the skulls around the neck. Many other symbology representing the elements. You see the sickle, which means completely clearing away any negative obstacles that's in your path. Those are some of the basic symbologies. Now, the name Kali means black. It's simply, you'll see many depictions of Kali Ma, some completely dark black. I'm actually wearing a symbol around my neck too right now. She's depicted sometimes olive tone, sometimes fair skin, many different depictions, depending on a specific period or time frame that this deity was venerated. The important aspect to understand is what it represents. It's a highly magical archetype energy. It deals with high levels of spirituality. It doesn't just deal with on the surface where most people think it represents a violent aspect, very, very brutal and gruesome. And it only represents that in the sense because the power of the divine mother goddess or the archetype energy is very forceful and vengeful in clearing any obstacles in the practitioner's path when activating that spiritual energy. So there's specific mantras one can do for that. So let's go through these. What are mantras? Okay. Again, let me pull this up here so I can get it on the screen. Okay, there we go. Okay, when one thinks of mantras, we tend to think of the most famous mantra, which is the Om mantra. Om is in fact the primordial mantra, a mantra that the divine used to create all of the universe. It is no coincidence that many other mantras start with Om. It charges it with power. And Om is probably the most familiar mantra that people all across the globe are familiar with. When you go back and do the research, you'll find out in many cultures, not just the Hindu pantheon, you can find it also in the Orishi or the Yoruba pantheon. You can also find it in the Buddhist or the Tibetan pantheon. And whether monotheistic religious people are aware of it or not, they end it in every aspect of all their prayers. When you say the word amen or amen, it has root in that word. In Hebrew, amun, amin, has root in the word aum. You will find out that this particular mantra, from modern day monotheism on back to cultures that predate it by thousands upon thousands of years, is something that's continuously used. It's the same thing to show you the connection, the spiritual connection. As I've mentioned before, the Buddhist monks, Tibet, and in the Dravidian cultures, they chant it because it represents the original vibrational sound of creation, what our galaxy was formed at. And it's synonymous with the sound as our galaxy was formed. And as it was expanding, it made that vibrational sound. Aum, aum. And this is why you will have various cultures will sit and chant this mantra, because it realigns you with the original forces of creation and nature. It actually has healing properties. It can stimulate proper circulatory blood flow, circulation throughout the entire body, proper blood flow through the heart. It can enhance and bring healing energy to the kidneys and the livers, along with many other mantras. Not just this one, but this is the base. You will find that a lot of these mantras will start off and have that Om principle in the beginning of it. It's definitely a key chant, and it's very effective when just chanted by itself. If you really want to bring balancement to the body, a basic practice one can do is sit at their shrine or their sacred space or wherever they meditate or study, and intake 3 deep breaths, and then do what we call a cleansing breath, which on that 4th breath you would inhale, retain the breath as long as you can until you feel you can't retain it no more, and then forcefully exhale the air through the mouth on that final breath. The other 3 should be in through the nose, out through the nose. This is very powerful in removing negative energy from the circulatory system when you begin doing your mantras or even your meditations. And you can just simply chant that basic mantra, which is very powerful. Okay. All right. The very word mantra indicates what it is. It originally in Sanskrit is composed of the 2 words, man, which is the root word for the mind, and tra, which is the root word for the instrument. So it's literally an instrument of the mind. Let's get that in our heads. And that's why I said in the beginning, you are infusing the mantra with the energy from the subconscious mind. So that's what a mantra is. Let's not get spooked, as you know, and I'll tell it till I'm blue in the face. When you're working any magic, it's manipulation of the subconscious mind, and it's coming from within. You are activating the internal forces of the subconscious mind. Again, you are not activating any forces outside of yourself, because that is not reality. And again, a real magician, a master metaphysicist, you should always go back to the 7 Hermetic principles if you really want to understand how to work this magic and how to work with these different archetype energies. The 7 Hermetic principles are key, and I'll say that over and over again. And that first Hermetic principle is key. All is mental. Mental is all. You have the doctrine of vibration, the doctrine of rhythm, the doctrine of polarity, the doctrine of correspondence. You have the doctrine of gender. You have to also understand that when dealing with the spirit realm and one goes outside of person, place, or thing, there is no gender. Once one vibrates past the mental plane and beyond, you are now leaving a world that is dictated and confined by physical gender, male and female. Now you just deal with the energy of masculine and feminine, which represents two different energies. You're going to also learn this, and this I say to most men, the feminine energy on the spiritual realm, for lack of a better word. And when I say spiritual realm, I'm saying vibrating on planes outside of person, place, or thing. The feminine energy is 10 times more powerful than the masculine energy. And any true man that really claims to be a magician or somebody that works spiritual magic understands that principle. Not like these phony ass motherfuckers that I'd say running that the black woman is God bullshit, because like I said, they do that just to prep the females to get some, pretty much get some pussy, and that's the reality of it. Because I still to this day I get emails and nobody can answer. I don't see any feminine presence in any of these organizations. If you believe that on that mundane level that the black woman is God, then I need to see some female teachers in the forefront. So don't just say it because you want to sound good and you want to look heavy and you want to impress the black woman, or so you think. And any black woman is falling for that shit. They just as stupid, because they should be holding these so-called teachers that teach the black woman God accountable. Okay? And I'm not talking about a man getting up there telling me how great the woman is and how great their woman is and how they uphold their woman. I want to see the woman do it for themselves. Now, am I saying that there's no female teachers in the forefront? No, I'm sure there's some. But on a wide scale level, no, there's not. Okay? So, if you're going to be a living example of the information you teach, I need to see that representation. Because when I get into this aspect of the doctrine, when you deal with the doctrine of gender, once you leave the physical realm, that's where the confusion kicks the fuck in. Because you need that balancement here on the physical realm. You need both energies, masculine and feminine. And as a real magician knows, the male needs the female to be recharged, and the female needs that masculine energy to be recharged. And I said you can do meditations together where you can pull from the magnetism of each other and balance each other out. So you should occasionally do a meditation, a group meditation, you and your mate, to recharge each other. So the real principle is you need both of those energies on a balancement level. So don't run the gauntlet with all that bullshit, because I can't stand listening to it. But that's a whole nother story. Anyway, so we understand what mantra is. I don't want to get sidetracked. It means instrument of the mind. So you are activating the energy of the subconscious mind. That's simple. All right. Then it goes on to say it is literally an instrument of the mind. It is said that the ancient gurus and sages had the ability to hear the primordial sounds of the universe as well as the sounds and vibrations of the gods. They realized these sounds are the very sounds of creation. These very sounds that are the core of everything, even the divine itself. Modern quantum physics backs this with the idea of the string theory. The theory suggests that the very core of the universe is composed of strings that vibrate a certain frequency. We are not talking atoms, but sub on atomic, the core of it all, the core vibratory energies of all there is and ever will be. Now let's break that down real quick, because we know a few years back it was thought when before science was as more advanced as it is now. For many years, people thought that atoms were the smallest particles when dealing with creation. Then we found out that those atoms can be broken down into 4 parts called quarks. Then they can be broken down into more parts called byads and zeals, and on and on and on and on and on, which gives us the explanation of what we call infinity or existence. They found out as they dug deeper, this tapped them into what we would call the spirit world. Because it's continuation. It's ongoing. It keeps going and going and going. It's kind of like when you look into a mirror, okay, and you see another mirror behind you, If there's one mirror in front of you, one mirror behind you on the side, you see constant multitude of layers of mirror and yourself in that mirror. That's the multi-quantum existence when you really break it down, because we haven't even really talked about mirrors being the gateway to the spiritual realm, because there's rituals one can incorporate with mirrors that's very powerful, but you have to be careful when you provoke or try to open what we call portholes, black holes, or dimensions to another existence. Because when you open them, you need to know how to close them. It's the whole other thing. And you have to be careful what you're opening up and bringing in, because if you're not prepared to work with that energy, it can run amok and cause chaos and problems. So be careful with that shit. We'll maybe talk about that on another level. So you're tapping into infinite existence, okay, that has no beginning, that has no end, by way of using the instrument or the spiritual energy of your subconscious mind. So I hope everybody's understanding what mantras really are. Then it goes on to say the original mantras were composed in Sanskrit. Sanskrit letters contain energetic principles that, when pronounced, produces change in the surrounding energy field. So by your vibration and by your energy and the tone and frequency that you chant this mantra is going to raise up a certain spiritual energy. Okay, this is how you do it. The first mantras ever composed can be found in the Hindu scripture called the Vedas. And if you are not familiar with Dravidian or Hindu culture, I suggest you definitely study the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, to get a good understanding of what these deities and archetype energies represent. Okay? The Vedas are the most sacred text of the Hindu faith, and some would say that they're the most ancient texts known to man. The use and function of a mantra, as well as their structure, varies from tradition to tradition. As I said earlier, you'll find mantras not just in the Hindu or the Pantheon tradition. You can find them strongly in the Yoruba or the Orishi culture. You'll find mantras and chants are used even during their drum ceremonies, when drums are being played to summon these deities of this energy. You'll actually, when you go back to the old Latin in the Catholic Church, you'll see the Gregorian monks do a form of mantra or chanting. So you can trace it to modern day cultures. So this is a magical system that's been used for a long period of time. Now again, this is also a magical practice that can be done collectively as a group. When you have a goal you're trying to obtain on a group level, and obviously most definitely they can be done on an individual level. So this is magic that can be performed on both of those levels. Okay. We often think that Hinduism is one homogeneous religion. However, it is incredibly rich and diverse, probably the most diverse religion in the world. In all traditions, mantras play a role, but some place added importance to them. For example, in the mysterious Hindu tantric traditions, the mantra itself contains the very essence of a god or a goddess, almost as if the mantra itself was the very name of the deity. So when they are recited, they immediately invoke the power of that deity. So you are invoking, you are activating the spiritual energy that deity represents. And I've always said this, when you're working with deities, get locked in your mind and focus on the archetype energy the deity represents, not physically worshiping the deity. Because the problem I see with people, and I've said this before, they might have come from a monotheistic background, be it Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, and again, say they come into Egyptology, and basically all they've done is left one form of religion and created another religion, and they're not consciously aware of it. So you have people worshiping Horus and worshiping Ra and calling Ra the Most High and Horus the Savior. That's some religious bullshit. You are still activating the polarity forces of religion when you do that, whether you're conscious of it or not. You are still looking at what deity represents through monotheistic eyes and not getting to the core and essence that this represents the energy that resides within you. You represent all of these deities, all these archetype energies, the warrior spirit, the healing energy, the wisdom, the wizard or the magician, all these are archetypes that exist within you, and you just need to tap into the subconscious mind and activate them. That's all it is. So when you look at it from that perspective, from within going out, not out coming in, and as I've said before, it's an inward journey out. And most cultures and dogmas teach you reverse because they're constantly having you worship external forces. They're trying to create the illusion and trick you that your salvation exists outside of yourself. And that's the biggest fucking lie that anybody can tell you, because that leads you on a mission to nowhere. That's basically where that's taking you. And obviously that basically sums up religion in itself, because religion has you constantly worshiping external forces. It has you waiting for shit to come get you. And it has you believing that there's some pie in the sky reward waiting for you. So just be a lazy bum and don't do shit here, and don't be successful, and don't worry about it, because that'll all be wiped away and there's pie in the sky waiting for you. It creates a slave mental mentality. And as I've said before, mental slavery is strong, well, and living, boy. Okay? It is living strong. It is flourishing off the ignorance of people that accept it. Okay? Alright, then it goes on to say, in some schools, mantras are given specific meaning and are attached to human aspirations, such as to gain peace, love, and what have you. In other traditions, they do not mean anything, but rather their very sound conveys certain energies. Essentially, a mantra may not have a translatable meaning, but rather it is used to invoke a certain energy or to be experienced. Okay? So let's stop there and we'll finish up with that. I think you got the basics of what mantras are. The key, though, in that end part there is you should understand the purpose and the meaning of the mantra you're reciting. And not only just to mantra magic, but to anything you do, especially when working spiritual magic on any level. I particularly am a black magic practitioner. That's what I do. And I say black magic, again, as I said before in the past, and let me dispel all the spooky bullshit on that. We're talking about the dark, chaotic energies that have no boundaries, no limitations. That's why I had mentioned earlier the deity Kali Ma. Kali Ma represents, to my subconscious mind, the type of magic that I work with, which is that dark magic. It's raw. It has a certain feel to it. It doesn't take any bullshit, and it's very effective in getting the job done. And one has to be disciplined in working with that magic. That's the magic, and that's what the black magic represents to me, and the type of black magic I work. I don't work the peace and love magic. I don't work the Wiccan magic, because again, out of that darkness and chaos comes organization. And again, when you look at the Divine Mother Goddess Kali, for an example, there is the compassionate and the love, but love is taught by way of the deity Kali Ma, through teaching one sometimes hard lessons, sometimes putting an individual through trials and tribulations to teach them a lesson. It's tough love. So there is that balancement, there is that harmony, and there's that love. It's not all gloom and doom. Because if you think it's all gloom and doom, then you don't understand what real magic is, especially dark black magic. You have no fucking clue what it is. You've just created in your mind your own interpretation, and you've written it off as negative because you fear the shit, because you're afraid that you might tap into your true self. The shit most people fear is the shit most people are. And you find that out as you go further in your spiritual studies. And most people, the areas that they're afraid to address and deal with are the areas deep down inside. They're going to find the truth and the realization about themselves and who and what they really are. So they try to mask it and avoid it and try to run from it and cover it up with all this other bullshit. And they want to play Egyptian and they want to play Orishi and Santeria and Yoruba and this shit. I've been through all that shit, okay? And it can only take you so far. When one becomes a true spiritual practicing magician, you transcend above being a follower and now you become a master and you become a practitioner. And you can go into any of those cultures and activate the energy of any of those deities you feel at any given time and to do whatever spiritual work you're trying to work. So now, rather than you worshiping deity, you now become deity because you realize this very God exists within yourself. And now you know you just need the correct formulas to activate this deity that resides within. This is what being a true magician, a true practitioner of magic is, or being a god. I hear people, again in the conscious community, walking around, I'm God, the black man is God, I'm God this, I'm God that. But most of them are goddamn fools because it's just diarrhea of the fucking mouth. That's all they do. They just diarrhea at the mouth. They say shit because it sounds good. You know, it sounds deep. It's black this, it's black talk. You understand? And that's basically for them. It's not even for the people that they saying it to. That's for them to stroke their fucking ego. That's all that shit is. But then when you ask them, other than the fact that they can regurgitate and spit off a whole bunch of historical bullshit that they read from books, what type of works as a god or a deity are you doing? Okay? That's the question that needs to be asked. And I'm not just talking about physical things. I don't give a shit how many lectures you've done. I don't care where you've claimed to have gone. Because we all can do that shit. That's physical, mundane shit. I ain't talking about that. If you claim to be God, what spiritual powers are you utilizing and activating to show and prove that? Other than just talking about the shit. Because them days are over. I couldn't give a fuck about sitting in a lecture and for 3 and 4 hours and listening to a whole bunch of historical rhetoric or nonsense and bullshit. Man, it's sad in this fucking day and time that we still got to sit and listen to debates, religion, against Egyptology. I don't want to hear that bullshit. Okay, we know the basics. Okay, so if we sit here and go back and forth for hours of who's wrong and who's right, it's a waste of goddamn time. But when you ask these motherfuckers what are they actually doing, they don't have shit to tell you. The only thing they're doing is getting in front of the camera and doing these lectures or holding these events to cater to everybody's fucking ego. It's a feel-good thing. So you walk away, you know, blaming the white man for all your fucking problems, and you're walking away feeling good about how original you think you are and all this other bullshit. But at the end of the day, then half of you go back to your fucking pathetic jobs working for the white man. The very force you say you're trying to take and overcome, but you're still in his system. You're still a slave. It's fucking comical to me. But anyway, to finish up, mantras, and I want to leave it on that note, is an extremely powerful, magical practice when you really study it, learn it, and master it. Now, one thing I would recommend, so you're not all over the place, if you decide you want to try this magical practice, I would find a deity you're educated to. When I say a deity, focus on the archetype energy of that deity. I would work with that deity for maybe a specific week. Get to know what that deity represents. Find one. It could be Khnum, it could be Ra, it could be Shango, Batala, Kali Ma, Vishnu, Shiva. Shiva's a powerful force because Shiva just completely annihilates everything in its path. If you're trying to clear obstacles in your path or any negativity that might be plaguing you, Shiva's a powerful deity for that, because it wreaks destruction on anything that's in its way. I would focus for a whole week on a specific deity and do specific mantras for that deity. There's many different, again, books out there. I gave you just one basic one in this lecture. You can find many books on it. Again, you don't have to systematically do it as it says in the book. And you know, I always tell people that. I give you the references, but the key to creating your own spiritual path, obviously, is creating your own shit. not following somebody else's shit. So just educate yourself by way of the information. Focus on a specific deity and come up with your own mantras. I mean, there's nothing wrong. You can use ones that are in the book, but is make sure your own magical intent. The key behind it always is the intent, is charging that mantra. If you're doing mantras for better health, okay? If you might have some physical ailments that are plaguing you, focus on the archetype energy that deals with healing, and focus, as you're doing the mantras, you would focus on the specific ailment that you have, and you would visualize healing energy. Say, for an example, you were dealing with arthritis in the knee. I'm just throwing something out there. As you're doing that mantra, you want to visualize healing energy going to your knee. If you're doing it for somebody else, same method. You would visualize that person and that healing energy being sent to that person if you're doing for healing. Let's say you're trying to do magical mantras for prosperity. Now let me be clear on this shit. You're not gonna do it fucking and go play the Powerball and win $10 million. That's not how this shit works. Let's say something more practical. You're trying to obtain and buy a house, and you might be kind of in a rut, and you're trying to get doors open to doing that. What you would focus on when you would do that mantra for prosperity to buy a house, visualize as you're doing the mantra the type of house you want, and see yourself living in the house while you're doing the mantra. Say it's with your wife and your kids or whatever, but visualize yourself, see the house, see yourself living in the house. And once you're visualizing that and you're doing the mantra, you are activating the energy to bring that into fruition. Okay, so the principle works with anything. Just you need to understand the intent, establish the intent before you do the mantra, and then visualize. Remember the steps to it, and then get into the rhythm and the vibration. Now, as far as rhythm and vibration of the mantra, you can do it slow. You can do it medium pace. I find out as you're doing it repetitiously, the speed, just go with the flow. It'll naturally either pick up, it'll stay where it needs to be. But don't try to intentionally do it. But once you get into a natural rhythm, the rest of that will take care of itself. So these are just hopefully some foundation principles you can use if this is a path you decide to utilize, which is mantra magic. And like I say, the biggest tool and the only tool one needs to really work spiritual black magic is the subconscious mind. Once you're able to utilize that at its correct form, there's nothing or nobody that can stop you. You will be able to eliminate all bullshit artists out of your path. And you'll be able to transcend beyond things that are confounded by person, place, and thing. It's that simple. So anyway, I hope this helped out if this is, again, a path or a magical practice you decide to use. All right, couple quick announcements. This Thursday on Awakening Universal Minds, our radio show, which you can see, all the shows are archived on the Mother Nubia Inc. Google page. And I leave all the links here on the YouTube page to the show. We'll have Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum on this Thursday night at 9 o'clock sharp. And he'll be back to talk about melanin, serpent power, and the black unconscious. And he gets heavy into it from a mental aspect. He's been on our show several times. He's authored many great books, and definitely one of the elders that I definitely would always encourage people and seekers of spiritual knowledge to definitely seek out and study his works. So Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum on the show this Thursday at 9 p.m. If you're able to tune in, make sure you tune in. I wouldn't want to miss that. And then to announce, I believe I announced it last week, we need to change the date. It's 1 week after. The lecture I will be doing down here in Miami is actually on Saturday, February 27th at 7:30 p.m. at Sophia's Garden of Ma'at. The event is free, no charge to get in. The only admission is free of mine. I will be out there with tons of books and products, so support. Also support Sophia's Garden. She sells vegan foods, makes multiple different arts and crafts, cultural arts and crafts. So we just ask you come out and support the event, support the facility, support the vendors. No charge to get in. So if you're in the South Florida area, definitely come out and check that out. If you're able to come and travel from out of the South Florida area, you're more than welcome to come. Usually we kick it. We have a real good time. Even afterwards, we play the drums. Sometimes the after class is even better than the actual class because you just never know what's going to happen. But we're out there always having fun with it. So definitely, if you're able to come to that, we definitely like to see you out there. So that'll be Saturday night, February 27th, 7:30 p.m., Sophia's Garden of Ma'at. Think that's all I got for you. Again, my intent over the next several weeks now is to go over practical, magical applications that one can actually put into practice and use. And anybody that tells you that stuff that we're dealing with, alchemy, metaphysics, spiritual magic, is voodoo and devil worship, tell them to go fuck themselves and tell them to stay mentally dead in that bullshit ass religious mind state they got, because they have no idea what this is really all about. And again, people fear what they don't know about. So if you are beginning on your magical path and you're catching flack and you're catching criticism and you're afraid to venture in this path of what people might think, fuck them. It doesn't matter what people might think. Shit is irrelevant. This is about you first. So you need to get yourself in order. Fuck what everybody else thinks. That shit is irrelevant in this day and time. If you're worried about what everybody thought, you'll have a long, miserable life. But anyway, hope this helped you out. Whatever we come up with next week, we'll go over. So this is your brother Beniti Amun Ray saying Hotep. To all you Hotep motherfuckers, Assalamu alaikum. To all you Muslim motherfuckers, Shalom, peace, alafia, and all that good shit, and whatever you need to get through the day. And we will see you on the next post. Peace.